Angels are often seen as beautiful, kind, or cute, but today I'll show you they're actually different. Actually, most people who see angels get scared, panic, and become paralyzed, or even go crazy, especially when they see the strangest ones, the Ophanim. If I say angel, what do you picture first? Maybe a cute blonde figure with wings and white clothes, a guardian angel. Or if you like supernatural, a guy in a suit. We easily picture them as pure, glorious beings who bring peace to humanity. When we think of archangels like Michael, Raphael, or Gabriel, we may picture warrior angels, which is different from imagining a purely good being. They'd be serious in golden armor with a sword, driving away demons. The concept of kind angels has been handed down for generations, largely due to the well-known guardian angel. This later appeared in movies, television shows, and books, where angels look like humans with wings. Even today, angels are very important in religions, being God's main messengers, the ones who answer prayers and take them to God. Their importance is so great that God's main angels were given the titles of saints by the Catholic Church: Saint Michael the Archangel, Saint Raphael, and Saint Gabriel. You could also be an angel by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it as well, if possible, Ripa. If you want to learn more about angels, or even buy a headset and join the Discord, take a look at the pinned message. Angels are usually described as kind, warm, and gentle, and it's rare for them to appear and frighten someone based on given descriptions. When we ask what an angel is, they represent God's goodness to us. They couldn't be evil, could they? What we have in mind when we think of angels goes a bit against the Bible's own description of them. Those attacked or visited by an angel become extremely scared, paralyzed, and unable to stand. And that's not strange at all, is it? After all, imagine you're just relaxing at home or walking down the street, and out of nowhere you hear a "do not be afraid." I'd be afraid immediately, and something similar happens with Isaiah. Seraphim usually appear as winged creatures with 6 wings. One pair was for flying, one for covering their feet, I'm not sure why, and the last pair covered their faces, and so they wouldn't look directly at God. Seraphim stay close to God, and apparently their role is to sing and worship Him. Some places say that actually the Seraphim were the ancient gods of other religions, who have now become God's angels or His servants. Well, the Seraphim are described by Isaiah. In the year King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord on a high, exalted throne, and His robe filled the temple. Seraphim were above Him. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they flew. And they called out to one another, saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of His glory." The doorpost shook at the caller's voice, and the house filled with smoke. Isaiah was in shock at that moment because he knew he was not worthy to be there. Isaiah felt uneasy around the seraphim, despite knowing they served God. What if a seraphim approaches Isaiah with a stone, touches his lips, and removes his iniquity? Then I said, "Woe is me, for I am lost, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. I have seen the King, the Lord of hosts." But one of the seraphim flew to me, holding a live coal taken from the altar with tongs. He touched my mouth with the coal and said, "This has touched your lips. Your iniquity is removed and your sin is atoned." Ezekiel implies the same thing about the cherubim. Angels, those who each have 4 heads, one of a human, one of a lion, one of a bull, and one of an eagle. Each living being had 4 faces. The first face was a cherub, the second a man, the third a lion, and the fourth an eagle. Even though these 2 beings are quite scary and strange, none is as bizarre, at least in my opinion, as Ophanim. The term Ophanim comes from the Hebrew word Uphan, which means wheel, spheres, or whirlwinds. They are celestial beings in the Bible, mainly seen in Ezekiel's vision. It is said that while Ezekiel and the Jews had been conquered by the Babylonians, one day Ezekiel was approached by God. On the Kebar River banks, he gives Ezekiel 2 visions. The cherubim had some really wild features, and the others would be very strange beings with the following appearance. I saw the living beings, and behold, there was a wheel on the earth beside the living beings, one for each of the 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels and their workmanship was like the color of beryl, and all 4 had the same likeness and appearance. Their workmanship looked like a wheel inside another wheel. When they moved, they went in any of their 4 directions. They did not turn as they went, and their rims were so high that they inspired awe. And these 4 had their rims full of eyes all around. The passage begins with Ezekiel talking about the cherubim, beings with 4 faces, but then he spends quite a bit of time talking about beings that look like wheels. These are the Ophanim. Ezekiel describes them as having a bizarre appearance. They were shining and had the color of beryl. He also says that they had 4 wheels, which together formed just one larger wheel. Something interesting is that he also says that although these beings were independent and moved on their own, they only did so when the cherubim were facing them. This suggests the cherubim controlled the Ophanim. Even stranger, all the beings' wheels were covered. These beings don't appear that much in the Bible, so there's little information about them. But one of the ideas is that these beings are the wheels of God's own chariot. This idea comes from Psalm 18:10, where it doesn't explicitly say that the Ophanim are God's wheels, but it tells us that God rode a cherub and flew away. If cherubim serve multiple roles for God, such as being angels and mounts, then Ophanim likely have a second role as the wheels of a chariot. He descended from the heavens, darkness beneath him, and rode a cherub through the sky. Yes, he rode on the wind and made darkness his hiding place. He was surrounded by darkness from the waters and clouds. In another passage it says, "As the living beings moved, the wheels moved with them. And when they rose from the earth, the wheels rose too. Wherever the Spirit wanted to go, they went. Wherever the Spirit had to go, the wheels rose up in front of them. The spirit of the living being was in the wheels. When they moved or stopped, so did the wheels. And when they rose up from the earth, the wheels also rose up in front of them, because the spirit of the living being was in the wheels." Here we have no doubt at all. The cherubim seem to have some power over the Ophanim, possibly because the cherubim pull God's chariot, while the Ophanim serve as its wheels. It also says that in the Ophanim themselves was the spirit of the beings. It's as if the Ophanim had the spirits of the cherubim inside them. Maybe the wheels acted like a cage for cherubim inside, but following this idea, you could say that these beings wouldn't be angels, but just wheels, not considered living beings, so to speak, but actually a kind of tool or a kind of mechanism. But you can't say for sure, especially because the things of God or God's world don't follow the same logic as the human world. Anyway, the idea that the Ophanim are indeed angels is part of other scriptures and other visions. The book of Enoch, a debated apocryphal text recounting some Bible stories, mentions the Ophanim among other angels. The Lord of Spirits placed the chosen one upon the throne of glory and will judge him. All the works of the saints and their actions will be weighed on the scales when he raises his face to judge their secret lives. By the word of the Lord of Spirits, one may take the shortcut through the path of his righteous judgment. Then together they will bless, glorify, exalt, and proclaim the holy name of the Lord of Spirits. He will summon all the hosts of heaven, saints, hosts of God, cherubim, seraphim, Ophanim, and all powerful and mighty angels, to the elect one and other powers over earth and water. Anyway, these angels are very strange because they go against all the other types. They lack humanoid forms, don't deliver prophecies to humans, and aren't described as having wings in the Bible. When discussing the Ophanim, Enoch describes them a bit differently in his second book, where he mentions the thrones again. He discusses the men who brought him to the seventh heaven, including the angels, archangels, seraphim, dominions, all the classes described by the Catholic Church. But what scared Enoch the most were the beings he called the many-eyed ones, or thrones, or Ophanim. Those men took me and carried me to the seventh heaven, where I saw an exceptionally great light. All the flaming hosts of archangels, incorporeal forces, dominions, origins, authorities, cherubim, seraphim, many-eyed thrones, regiments, and shining Ophanim stations. I was terrified and shaking with fear. Enoch is very specific when referring to the Ophanim as thrones or many-eyed, which matches Ezekiel's description very well. Enoch doesn't mention wheel shapes, unlike the book of the Bible, so Enoch allows for more interpretation. He may have seen beings, not the wheels of fire, and they probably had a more human-like form in a way that was more similar to men. But these angels had several eyes scattered across their bodies, and these thrones share, just like many other angels, the compassion and the concern to calm Enoch. At that time they neither go out at night nor withdraw during the day, staying before the Lord and doing his will. Cherubim and Seraphim surround his throne, with 6 wings and many eyes covering the entire throne, singing with their voices before the face of the Lord, Holy, holy Lord Sabaoth, heaven and earth are full of his glory. And when I saw all these things, those men said to me, Enoch, up to this point, we were commanded to travel with you. The men left, and I never saw them again. Alone at the edge of the 7th heaven, I was terrified. I fell with my face to the ground and said to myself, woe is me, what has happened to me? The Lord sent the archangel Gabriel, who told me, be courageous. Enoch, do not fear. Stand up, come with me, and stand before the Lord forever. Here, thrones are given the role usually assigned to seraphim, to praise and glorify God. It's curious that in this second book of Enoch, for some reason, they never mention the word Ophanim, unlike the first book, which uses the name very directly, as I've already shown you. There, in fact, the Ophanim appear, even close to the throne of God, being almost like guardians of this throne. Like other angels, they neither sleep nor eat. Thus, the seraphim, cherubim, and Ophanim surrounded them. These beings never sleep and guard his throne. The seraphim, cherubim, and Ophanim are always seen together. Mainly in Christian angelology, they are part of the last angelic sphere, being the closest to God. And I even have a video that explains these spheres and the entire hierarchy of angels very well, which I'll leave in the card and in the description for you. Just so you understand, it would be like this. In the 3rd hierarchy are principalities, archangels, and angels, those closest to humanity. As the sphere rises, angels become closer to God. They are followed by the dominations, virtues, and powers. And in the 1st sphere are the seraphim, cherubim, and thrones. Despite this classification by the Catholic Church, there are certain differences depending on who you ask. Some say archangels are closest to God. Some say it's the seraphim, while others argue seraphim, cherubim, and thrones aren't angels but different beings. This is the view of Judaism itself, especially because seraphim, cherubim, and so on are not exactly messengers, which would be the main function of angels. In Judaism, the thrones are considered the angels closest to God, not the cherubim. Some say the thrones and the fanon are entirely different beings, not the same. The idea that they are the same being comes from a passage in Daniel where he has a vision of God's chariot. I kept watching until some thrones were set in place and an Ancient of Days sat down. His robe was white as snow and his hair was like pure wool, and his throne was flames of fire, and its wheels were burning fire. This passage suggests the thrones are the fiery wheels of God's chariot. They are far below where he sits, which is why it's called a throne. I told you that in Judaism, the thrones are considered the beings closest to God. Within Judaism, there are various versions, such as in Jewish mysticism. In Kabbalah, the fanons are often described as the second order nearest to God in the angelic hierarchy. According to Maimonides, these are seen as beings of great wisdom and are constantly occupied protecting the throne of God. The Kedusha section in the Jewish morning prayer has the following phrase: the Ophanim and holy living creatures rise up with great commotion, and among the seraphim they offer praise, saying, Blessed be the glory of God from his place. This shows Ezekiel's vision and the Ophanim's role in worship. Well, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it as well. And tell me, what do you think about the Ophanim? Are they angels or not? Do you think they're the strangest angels? See you next time.